All right, so here's another spot on Phelps-Tavenner Cemetery, and I'm going to kind of read it with you. It says, to the east of this cemetery, on the banks of the Little Kanawha River in 1785, Captain James Neal formed the first permanent settlement in Wood County, Virginia. Vast acreage owned by Captain Neal and his son-in-law, Colonel Hugh Phelps, was later transferred to Thomas Tavenner. In Tavenner's will of 1857, he directed that 2 acres and 26 poles be used as a public burying ground. Captain Neal died during the sickly season of 1821, perhaps becoming the first burial at this site. Thomas Tavenner, Colonel Phelps, and his wife, Hannah Neal Phelps, and other Parkersburg early pioneers are also buried here. Now, it mentions the year 1821, the sickly year, and that's a year, I think, that, let's see if I can get in here. This is Phelps-Tavenner Cemetery. That's the year, I think, that they had the sick house on North End there, and I'll have to show you guys that sometime. So these are a lot of the early pioneers. You never see anybody coming in here. And there you can see they were born in the late 1800s. There's an obelisk right there. A lot of these names, like it says, are going to be Phelps and Tavenner. Some of them are so faded. West Virginia Infantry. It says Swiss. I've never heard of that name. United States Navy. Hard to make out what's on there. Looks like last name is King. 32nd something infantry. Oh, well, I can't read it. Infantry. That's the United States Army. Now this is different. You've got this plot right here. I'm going to shift over here first. (1911). Asleep in Jesus. MGT, Tavenner. Can't even make what it has an A on it. All they got was one initial. Isn't that crazy? Let's see what this sign says. "39th Ohio Infantry. Company H," that's what it is. Your army had companies, that's what they were called. When I was in a few years ago, 2 years ago actually, I was in field artillery, 41st, and that was a brigade. Oh wow, I've never seen that last name work. Huh. A lot of military. These are early pioneers. They came over in the Army. West Virginia Cav. There's a Cav Scout. Fleming Biles. Here you see Fleming again. Huh. That name keeps popping up a lot, doesn't it? Company L. 4th West Virginia Cav. And it looks like it says Lily Dale. I don't know. Wife of Eliza. Died in the early 1900s. Now this is a difference. Here you see province. Simeon Province and Hannah Province. Died 1931, 1914. But here you see Proviance. It's a little bit strange, isn't it? I don't know if that was a mistake or what. I don't think so, because here you got Uriah Proviance. June of 1868. Patience Proviance. Huh. Maybe they screwed up the other one. Proviance again. See, these names are so old. Monroe Wires, 1906, at rest. Mother Carrie Brown, 1913. Son Everett Stewart, so this is a family plot, 1904. Father William F. Stewart, 1897. Louisa Stewart, 1936. Estella Stewart, 1879. Franklin Stewart, 1879. Huh, look at this. Some of you guys might be familiar with this name. It's a recent death. Bob Sager, 1928 to 2009, entertainer. That's interesting. It's at the very end of that family plot. Here you've got one all by itself. Captain George Huber, Company G, 200th Pennsylvania Infantry. Sad you can't make anything out on it. Man. Okay, so I'm going to check out this other one. J.W. Dobbins, Company F, another Cav Scout. Some recent flowers there, but hardly anybody ever comes in here. I'll make my rounds here. We're going to explore the side of this, and then we'll come around to that middle section and show you guys the last part of it. There's a shed there. Now remember, this was all erected by Thomas Tavenner. John Stone King, Company H, 3rd West Virginia Cav. You can see a Gretchen sign at this house up here. Reward still stands at $100,000. Okay, you kind of see the outlook of the hill in the background. David Bower, 1822 to 1904. Jeanette, his wife, died in 1915. Let our Father's will be done. Bower, or Bauer, probably Bauer. A lot of these, you can see the badge, and this is actually pretty well preserved. Let's see here. I don't see a date on it though, but it says Calvin P. Rosser, Company D, 14th West Virginia Infantry. But when you see that badge, it usually means a Cav Scout insignia from the Army. The military meant a lot to the people that, you know, they served. That was their life, whether they died in combat or after. Hannah, wife of, I can't read it, Millie maybe? Gosh, that must have been a baby right there. I don't know. I can't make it out. These ones here are old. I'll see a couple of these in Riverview Cemetery on Juliana and 13th Street, nicely, 1864. Ooh, these are old. These are some of your very first pioneer settlers here in Parkersburg. Founded right on the Little Kanawha River right here. Nicely, Mary, nicely, 1851. Here's another Cav Scout. Well, I guess not. It must just be Army, but right there's the badge. So he was a private in Company K, David Riffle, 9th West Virginia Infantry, died in 1917. Here's another really old one. Mary, Emily, looking for a date here. George Watson, 1826. And then let's check out some of these. They're pretty faded, and I'm not even sure how to get in, but this is that old wrought iron fence, obviously of that time. I guess you would come in over here, if I even can. I don't know. I think this is supposed to come up. There we go. Push down, and it opens. And we're in. Nobody comes in here. Let's see. Benjamin McDougall. Oh man, it's an Irish name. 1869 on August 12th. That's 2 days after my birthday. He was 32 years old. 1869, man. 1871. Ida McDougal. Man, oh man. She was 20 years old. Here's Mary McDougal, so this was a family plot. Died on 1873. Wow. Look at this one here. This one's cracked. Gosh, this looks Halloweenish. It's been refurbished. It's got a steel frame around it because it's cracked and it was falling apart and they reassembled it. I can't even make it out. Died in, I don't know. I can't read it. It's so sad. Margaret, wife of George Armstrong. Deceased, died April 17th, 1866. Aged 76 years. I better shut the gate back. Oh, looks like probably some kids down there maybe. I see initials and stuff. Huh. Okay, so I locked the gate back. And I'm going to show you just a couple more. There's a flagpole right out here. Jarrett Nugent, I don't know. Oh my gosh, these are the first ones. Died on July 26th of 1819. On the something year of his age. So on the 6th. No, 6th. I can't read it. Maybe you guys can. What's this say? 64th. Died on the 64th year of his age. Jarrett Nugent. Wow, man. Here's one that died on August 17th, 1850. And wife of Jared Fugit. Okay, so F-U-G-E-T. That's what it is. Fugit. Anne Fugit. That was the wife. 1822. Died. This is where you need to do gravestone rubbings with a crayon and a paper. You'll take your crayon on the paper and put the paper over the words and it'll show up better. Died in 1830 by the look of it. Here's one right here. Oh, I can't make anything out on that. Wood County Historical and Preservation Society gratefully acknowledges contributions to the Wood County Commission, the Bernard McDonough, or McDonough. That's McDonough Park is up to the north, so it must be named after Bernard McDonough Foundation. Edwin L. D. and Jane Dills. Dills is a big name around here from the olden days. You got the Dill Center, it just closed up on North End here. And the other organizations and individuals who support made this gravestone possible. This stone was placed in December of 2010. Here's another Hugh Phelps again. So it's Phelps-Tavenner Cemetery. You've got Hugh Phelps. That was a big, Hugh and Hannah Phelps was a big family out here. He died, that's Hugh the second. He died in 1802. Same year that his wife died. That's interesting. Look at this. This is a slave gravestone in memory of Frank Wyckoff, circa, which means about 1776 to about 1830. Honored slave of Captain James Neal. So you see it right there. That's some history here in Parkersburg. We're right on the Mason-Dixon line. West Virginia used to be the state of Virginia all the way out here. It actually used to be bigger than this. It used to be a really huge area when it first was a state. And it was one of the first states, actually. But this was before the Emancipation Proclamation, I do believe. And slaves were up here. You can see it. An honored slave of Captain James Neal, an Army captain. And here you are. So these are the big gravestones. Colonel Hugh Phelps. So he was a colonel. He was born 1766 and died September 6th, 1823. He was 57 years old. Wow. And this was his wife, Hannah, daughter of Captain James Neal and the wife of Colonel Hugh Phelps. She was 55 years old. So she was 2 years younger than her husband when they both died in the same year. No, they didn't die the same year. She died in September of 1824, the next year that he died. So you've got Hugh Phelps. Trying to put all this together here, who is married to Hannah right here, and she was the daughter of Captain James Neal. So Hugh Phelps was the son-in-law of James Neal. And you'll see these names synonymously here in this city on your streets and stuff. Now here's more Tavenner. There's a lot more here than I thought there would be. Here's Thomas Tavenner right here. He's the one that ordered that there'd be the, 24 poles that I said in a fence. 1776 to 1857. And this was the original one. They've just laid it down instead of stood it up. Thomas Tavenner. Alexander Tavenner. Here they've got it with one L. I don't know why they screwed up and put two L's right there. He died in 1848. And then Elizabeth Beauchamp Tavenner. It's interesting. Look at this. Here's another slave one. In memory of Lewis Clifton, 1780 to about 1874, honored slave of Thomas Tavenner. So an honored slave. So that means that he probably was looked at highly. Never made money, but he worked. Had lodging. Of this guy right here, Thomas Tavenner. And he was buried with his owner. Thomas Tavenner's wife was Ann R. She was born here in Wood County. And it used to be Virginia. You see it right there. So look, Wood County, Virginia. The county was formed before the state of West Virginia was. And it's not named after a bunch of trees and wood. It was actually named after a guy. I'll get into that on another video. But she was born in 1835 and died in 1928. So you can see right there, she was born here in Wood County, Virginia at 1835. That means that West Virginia was not formed by 1835. If you really look, there's a lot of history you can learn from these cemeteries. Infant. Eunice C., the wife of Franklin Tavenner. And here's Franklin Tavenner. So you see the initials down there. This is really old, folks. This is 1865. Franklin Tavenner. Another big name. It wasn't Thomas Tavenner. He was probably his brother. This one's more recent. So you've got 1957, the same name still here in Parkersburg. Oh, I can't read all that. Looks like 1820 maybe. And then that's pretty much what I'm going to show you. I'll go over here real quick just to see what's here. It's more Tavenner. I don't want this to be too much more than 20 minutes here. Charles Baldwin Tavenner, 1860 to 1883. He was only 23 years old. Oh, wow. Look at this, though. Stall knocker. So, here you have it. Look at this. Stall knocker. He actually is an officer up. Now, I like him. I think he's one of the good ones. He is an officer up at the Parkersburg Police Department. I think he's one of the good guys, but probably because he had a famous name from his descendants and stuff. So this is the husband, S.S. Stallknocker, Music Company, C. 11th West Virginia Infantry. So I wonder if he was a bugler, a guy that played the bugle or something. I don't know. Hattie, that's a real old name, died 1877. She was only 7 years old. It's got a Christian cross on it. I can't, Manuel maybe? Born in 1878, I can't make that out. This one's a little different. I've never seen one like this. And it's so faded, I just can't read it. Faith. Son of Smith. Died 1870, July 31st. Died 1898. Here's Smith. This is probably one of the most recent gravestones in this whole cemetery. That's how old this is. It says mother and father up there. Delphia and Benjamin. Mildred Hayner. 1903 Smith. So it's a family buried right there. Mother, father, and a daughter. And then there's this little storage shed right here with the solar panels up here at the intersection of Camden and Hamilton Street. So we're gonna wrap up this video. I appreciate you guys sticking with us here as we get to the end of it. And a dead end right here at 506. I kind of like how they have their address out there. But I do want to make note here. Look at this. It says, "Get the fuck off my porch." Right here. Southwood gang. And you see the drugs, or the arrows pointing to where the drugs are passed out. See that all over the city.